Okay, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, whichever time you're watching this. I want to welcome everybody to a new series that we're now producing called Sobel Insights. Sobel Insights is a session where we want to try and bring some information to the viewers on some brief information on certain topics. This is not to be construed as a full-length presentation of the topic. At this point, we are not issuing CPE on the topic because we're not prepared yet to start issuing nano credits. When we get to that point, hopefully we will be issuing CPE. If you have, our goal is to try and present these sessions once a week. So if you have any ideas for topics of what you'd like to hear about, please let us know. We will find a speaker if we don't have one in-house. If you are somebody that likes to speak and has a particular topic that you would like to get out to our clients or other centers of influence, please reach out to me, either way, for topics or for speaking. My email address is brad.muniz, M-U-N-I-Z, @SobelCoLLC.com. If you have trouble writing that down quick, you can always find me right on the SobelCo website, which we'd really appreciate if you go and look over our website. So with that said, as I mentioned before, that these sessions are geared to just talk about a topic in a brief format to try and give you some information either about the topic or about an update. And today, we're going to be talking about a topic that you've heard a lot of, so we're going to give you an update on it. And it's an update for today, and who knows what tomorrow is going to bring. So today will be a PPP update. We have Chris Martin with us, who is one of the PPP experts in our office. Chris, if you hadn't seen the last presentation, is a newly minted partner at SobelCo. Chris has been spending a lot of time not only handling his client responsibilities for audit, accounting, and tax and consulting, but also researching this PPP to try and advise not only his clients, but people within the firm and all the other clients and others that have questions. So to start off, Chris, what is PPP and PPP2 in brief, if you haven't talked about it enough already?
Right, you think I'd just be able to rattle this off the top of my head really easily, but it's something you actually have to think about. What PPP is, Paycheck Protection Program. If you recall, back in late March, early April last year, with COVID kind of onset onto the country, the CARES Act came out, and as part of the CARES Act, the Paycheck Protection Program was put out. And what the program does is provide funding to small and mid-sized businesses in the form of paycheck protection. It's dollars given to companies in order to fund payroll, essentially, to keep their doors open. The formulas and a lot of the aspects of the loan program have changed since the original act has come out, but as things progressed, it became where you would have to spend 60% of those funds on payroll, the other 40% on other occupancy type costs. And the idea was to provide this loan for companies to be able to spend those dollars over up to a 24-week period. If those dollars were spent according to the program, those dollars would then be forgiven by the SBA. So they're forgivable loans, and as the Appropriations Act came out in late December of 2020, there was the second round of PPP, what they're calling PPP second draw, the original being referred to as first draw. And that second draw is now catered more to smaller companies. The loans are a little bit smaller. The number of employees that that you can have to be eligible for this loan are a little bit smaller. So they really tried to cater this to those smaller business units.
Great. So as you had indicated, it started in March, it ended, it came back up again in the PPP2, and I guess everything's been running smooth. There's been no updates since then, right?
Yeah, no, there's been various changes throughout. There was a big change back in June of 2020 where they made some extensions of how long you could spend the dollars. Originally it was 8 weeks, changed to 24 weeks. Originally you had to spend 75% on payroll. They dropped that down to 60%. And then in this last round of funding, they actually added some additional eligible expenses that you could use that other 40% on. So the other covered expenses. So PP&E expenses, not PPP, PP&E, your masks, your plexiglass, that you see in the supermarkets, dividers, those sort of things. So they have been changing this, and it's been a pretty fluid program ever since the onset.
Great. And now with this PPP2, you thought that after they went through that with PPP1, they would have it pretty straightened out, but I don't know. My emails have been blowing up since last Friday through today about the changes and updates that have come out. Want to give us what some of those are?
Yeah, since the beginning of 2021, they came out with these rules. There were some FAQs that came out, and it's been kind of quiet for the past few weeks. So I thought coming into today, this little talk we were going to have was going to be pretty straightforward. But they announced that, and President Biden announced today there were going to be some changes starting, I believe, Wednesday, where they're really targeting small companies with less than 20 employees, certain groups of companies that are in economically distressed areas, those sorts of things. So they're making it where there's a 2-week window for those types of companies only to apply for these loans, to make sure that the small companies that this was meant for are getting those dollars. I was reading some stats today. I don't have it in front of me, but there was a significant portion of PPP dollars so far given to larger companies that may not necessarily where the intent was not for these dollars to go to. So they're really trying to target those smaller companies now.
Do you think that they're trying to make it easier on the smaller companies? And I say that because it's a loaded question.
Yeah.
I will say that I have a client that was trying to get $25,000 and the bank said, you filled out your application all wrong. I mean, how difficult could it be?
I think the intent has been there for that to happen, but I think with all the things that happened in the first round of funding, where you heard about I think there was a company out in Florida, the guy bought a Lamborghini, something like that. They're trying to prevent those types of things from happening, so they're putting a lot of checks and balances in. There's been a lot in the news about the checks that the SBA has on these loans coming through, where they're getting kicked back to the banks. There's a lot of these error codes that they're trying to rectify. So they're trying to now streamline the process even more so from that to make it a little bit easier, but I don't think we're there yet.
I saw, and you and I read similar AICPA material, they had a very good article on a validation process too that the SBA is putting into effect now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're trying to open up the lines of communication with the banks more so, have more communication with the banks. There was the error codes I was referring to. There's this whole list of codes that can come back. If you used an EIN the first time around and now you're using a social security number, if things aren't matching up in that second draw compared to the first draw, they're getting kicked back, just making it really difficult. I have heard some companies getting their loans in less than 10 days, and others, it's been a few weeks now and they're still waiting. So, the one thing that I think, and especially the AICPA has been communicating, is that there is funding there still. There's quite a significant amount of dollars left. So if you haven't gotten those funds yet, it's not like the first round where everybody was kind of scrambling, so we didn't know when the money was going to run out. The money should be there through the end of the period, which is now March 31st, where you can apply for these loans. So if you haven't gotten those funds yet, they should be there for the remaining term of this window.
I mean, I knew one of the concerns under the PPP1, and I'm sure under PPP2, and Rebecca Fitzhugh in our office talks about it a lot. You heard about the Lamborghini that you just mentioned. I mean, my client or friend's not going to get a Lamborghini for $25,000, but there are people that did that. But the worst that they're even concerned about too is the fraud. And I know that you're not a certified fraud examiner. Becky is. But it's part of the whole validation process. Yeah. Why are you going with the TIN and now social security number? They're concerned about fraud.
Sure.
So, and it just wreaks havoc for those people that are watching this that really are in need of the money and getting, pushback or having to jump through hoops all over the place.
Yep.
So, I've heard of. Let's go now to, and I'm sure people have a lot of questions about filing their application, and we've done presentations on it. And if they have questions, you can reach out to us. Again, if you want to hear on a particular topic and you want to hear about a particular topic relating to PPP, let us know. We don't want to make this whole series the Sobel Insight about PPP. We're going to be talking about tax. We'll be talking about cannabis, which has come out. But I heard that there were some banks that were telling people relating to forgiveness now that were telling people, hold on, we're not accepting forgiveness applications right now.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of banks that still aren't accepting applications. I've heard of a few of those banks that are now, and I think with all of the changes that have come over the last year, basically with PPP, the windows for forgiveness applications have opened at banks. Something changes, they've got to pull their systems down because it's all done online through a portal. So I think some of the back end has been a little slower at some banks. They want to make sure they get it right. I think you'll start seeing more of those banks opening their forgiveness portals over the next several weeks. They did come out with updated forms and such, so we should be, seeing that at some of the banks come in the coming weeks.
One of my concerns, and I believe it was your concern, was that if you haven't filed for forgiveness, you're going to hit the point where you have to start paying.
Right.
Now, what is the requirement there?
So the requirement is that the loan is deferred. You don't have to make any payments for 10 months after the end of your covered period. So for most companies, that'll be that 24-week period that you had to spend those dollars after you receive the loan. So theoretically, you've got those 24 weeks plus another 10 months, and then you would have to start making payments on those loans if the loans are not forgiven. Now, you may get to a point where you could submit those forgiveness applications at any point in time, after that 24-week period, theoretically, if the banks are accepting, through the point in which you're making payments. I'm not sure a scenario where you would want to start making payments and then submit for forgiveness. But if you're running up against that wall where you're getting close to that 10 months and you haven't applied yet, there may be a case where you have to start paying that loan back. There was a bank that came out and said if you did submit your forgiveness application, they're not going to be requiring you to make those payments, even if you are at the point at which you would make those payments. So I think you'll probably start seeing a lot more of that from the banks as we get further and further into the year here, and people start actually applying for forgiveness and running up against that 10-month window.
Right, because we'll go back to the numbers of days. The bank's supposed to have 60 to
Right.
look at it, and then the SBA is supposed to have 90, so it's 150 days. I have a particular client that submitted, they believe from my conversation with them, that the SBA has had it for over 90. Now, I don't know if it's a regulation. I don't know if they're required. They got a response from the SBA. We know we have it. We're looking at it, type of thing. Now, I think the reason that they're having an issue getting their response. I mean, you and I have a mutual client that received $1 million and received their forgiveness within the 90 days, well within the 90 days. This client in particular received 2.1 million. They won the jackpot. They went over that 2 million mark. So do you have any comments or thoughts on the $2 million, the audit threshold and everything?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be because of that. I haven't had too many clients submit yet that had over $2 million, the $2 million threshold. They have spent a lot of time, those particular clients, making sure the form that they have to fill out, the economic necessity form for any loan over $2 million, that's being filled out correctly. They only give you limited space to explain your reasons for taking the loan, your liquidity position, your financial position. So my suggestion is to consult your legal counsel, talk to your trusted advisors, really make sure that those economic necessity forms are filled out properly before you submit for forgiveness. Even though you don't have to have, the bank's going to be providing you those forms, it's a good idea to just have a draft kind of ready to go, because you only have a certain amount of time to submit that. Just really make sure you have your I's dotted and T's crossed with that stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen the 3 or 4 that I had over 2 million. This was the only client that submitted their application already. Everybody's trying to get it together, but I agree with you. I've told everybody, I believe it's 10 days that you have to submit the necessity form. So I'm not recommending people hold up their application. I'm recommending more people get the necessity form prepared and shared with your advisors to look at so that when you do submit your application, that's ready to go too. You don't want to have something like that hold it up.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, as soon as that form came out, pretty much every one of my clients over 2 million started putting it together, running it by their advisors, making sure everything looked okay. Because I mean, it's
Right.
difficult because at the point you took the loan, there was economic necessity. I don't think there's really many companies, many people that could say there was an economic necessity to take that loan. And now you're looking back in retrospect and seeing how the year progressed and how things, came about, trying to justify now taking that loan after the fact. So not really sure how the SBA is going to look at it upon audit. I think we'll start seeing more of that in the coming months as far as those companies, getting scrutinized a bit more.
Great, Chris. Any other final thoughts that you want to give?
I would say, we didn't really talk a lot about PPP2 in this short amount of time, but that is available. You had to have taken a first draw loan to be eligible for the second draw. I call it PPP2 for the second draw PPP loan. If you're even close to hitting that required 25% decline in gross receipts quarter to quarter, 2020 versus 2019, that's one of the eligibility requirements. Really look closely at that. Make sure that all your records are in place because you do have to certify those numbers. And just make sure you have your documentation ready to go. And if you need help from your advisors, definitely reach out.
Great. Chris, I wanted to try and keep these to around 15 minutes the most. May have gone a little bit over because of the introduction today, but I want to thank you for your time. If people need to reach out to you, if you need people need more information, chris.martin@SobelCoLLC.com, or you can also find him on the website. I want to thank you for watching this. If you made this far, if you have any ideas or have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much, Chris. Have a good day.
You too.